Hi, I'm Kevin, and this is my renovation story. I grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia. It was a regular childhood, to be honest with you. Outside all day, come in when the street lights come on. I had a great upbringing, a very supportive family. It wasn't the easiest, but hindsight made me understand that it actually made me tougher and pretty much built me for what I'm doing right now. Growing up in Portsmouth, Virginia, as far as after you left high school, the options were limited. It was limited to working at the Ford plant, going into the military, or if your family could afford it, going to college. The only opportunity I saw for myself is get a good job, go to work, save your money, buy a house. So when I was 22, I joined the Merchant Marines. I saw it as the most viable option in order to get paid a lot of money just for simply doing hard work. The Merchant Marine is so far from the military. It's a civilian mariner. Me personally, I worked on container ships for the most part, transferring goods from Belgium, Germany, the Middle East, China, everywhere, and bringing those back to the United States. The first time I came off the ship, I decided to teach myself how to build houses. So my first house took me about 2 years to complete. In the process of me building the house, I would actually come off the ship and sleep in my car. I would spend 4 to 6 months on the ship, and I would come home and I would work on the house until I actually started to go broke, pretty much. So every time my funds got down to about $5,000, I would head back on another ship for 4 to 6 months. I started to pay more attention to the items that we were shipping, which just happened to be shipping containers. And I just, after teaching myself how to build that first house, I started to look at containers differently as a simple box or a simple aesthetic. After you cut the windows and doors, it's pretty much a house at that point. I thought this house would take 6 containers. The city actually only allowed me to use 2 on the first floor, which is why this house is a hybrid container house. So this house is 2 containers on the first floor. The second and third story are stick built. So to start off building a container home, you need a solid foundation. So we poured an 8-inch monolithic slab. We also use rebar and fiber to give it the strength to hold a structure of this size. The build was very difficult because everybody was new to it. It was my first container home. My framers, it was their first time working with metal. My welders, so we had to get a feel for each other. So it was a learning process with this first house. So once the foundation is poured, I call my hotshot drivers and get them online to deliver the containers. This is where it got tricky because they had to drive in reverse all the way up this street, probably about a half a mile, just to get to this job site because this neighborhood is so tight-knit. So we had to have all the roads closed and we had to have enough space for the 100-ton crane to be able to lift the shipping containers and put them in place on this foundation. That day was very terrifying. I was actually scared. Hopefully everything would work out, and it actually did. This is 2 containers. The first container starts at the far end and comes about to this point. This is a 4-foot gap, which we bridged together using stick frame and traditional welding. And the last container is from this far end to that side of this window flare. I decided to cover most of the container. I actually wanted to add a lot of detail because the front elevation of the house is so flat, which is why I added window flares to give it another texture, and also why I used 1x4 hardy trim to give it just some notes of some different, just to add a little texture to the house. People who didn't see the early process still to this day wouldn't believe that it was actually a container house. So come take a look at the house. This is the first floor of the house. This is the actual container portion. It's 8 feet wide, 40 feet up and down. So this is the actual size of a one bedroom container essentially. So this is the first guest bedroom. I just wanted to maximize the bedroom space to make sure you didn't feel closed in, because containers already naturally have a somewhat of a lower ceiling. Large windows and white walls make the space feel enormous in comparison to how big it actually is. You have to do a few different architectural tricks to make it feel different or feel bigger. You want to use 8-foot doors instead of the standard 6+ feet. You want to do very large windows to bring in a lot of natural light. So this right here is the Jack and Jill bathroom. I kept the colors pretty much the same. I still wanted it to feel bright. This is actually an entire container right here. So when dealing with such a small space, you want to maximize it. So I went with white walls, white ceilings, light floors. These cabinets are actually upper kitchen cabinets. So it gave me a depth of 12 inches so I can maximize this walkway. These are floating vanities, which gives me a feel of more space. It's a little bit of trickery when you're dealing with container homes. So the next space is the second guest room, which is same color scheme, white ceilings, white walls, light floors, and this looks out into the front yard through these large windows. So right now we're headed actually upstairs to the stick frame portion of the house. This is the living area on the second floor because I wanted to capture all the views of downtown. So your living, kitchen, and dining, all open concept with 2 decks, actually gives you multiple views of downtown. This area is the living room. You have your TV right here with your fireplace and everything. This space has its own private entrance and its private deck. So this kitchen is actually a labor of love. This is my first time building a chef kitchen, which is why I did a 36-inch dual fuel stove, gas on top, electrical on the bottom. And this backsplash, actually, it was a design idea that a lot of people fought me on, but I did it because I actually wanted the space, once again, to feel bigger. And I know with reflection, it'll make any space feel like it's 2 times the size. I did the floating hood because I wanted to add texture to every part of the home. This is something that's not often done. Usually the range is on the wall, but I like to go against the grain. Behind the kitchen, we actually have the dining room area, and this actually leads you to the second deck. This is my favorite part of the house. This is the longest deck. It's 40 feet by 7 feet deep. This is where I come out like on a nice Friday night, have a glass of wine, and just pretty much chill out, relax. You still got the views of downtown. Not too many houses have 3 decks and city views of downtown. So another fun feature of this house is actually this accent wall. The accent wall for the stairwell is actually 1x1 pieces of lumber that they deliver when they deliver bulk objects to your job sites. This is actually trash. And we took it and repurposed it and made it something beautiful, I think. It's actually the most popular feature of the house, and it has this little peekaboo so you can see who's coming up the first floor. This cost $100 and it was worth every penny. Upstairs is the primary and the flex room. So let's take a look. So right now, this is the 3rd level and this is your primary room. It's quiet because we actually use spray foam insulation, which helps insulate all of the noise that you would hear from this city and all the outside elements. Behind this door is your primary bathroom. Let's take a look. I just wanted to match what we already had built on the first level, but we went with the ultra-modern fixtures, vanity bowls, backlit mirrors. Down this hall, you have your flex room, which is set up as a nursery right now, but it can be used for multiple purposes, such as an office. This house is actually for sale. And once we sell it, I'm looking to keep the ball rolling and do more affordable living spaces using repurposed shipping containers. My vision for what to do next, honestly, is to build a commercial structure, a multifamily type structure using shipping containers and actually start the affordable housing movement. That's important to me because everybody deserves a home, I feel like. There shouldn't be anybody living under a bridge when I can make them a container home. It just doesn't make sense to me. Everything I went through to get to this point and to get to where I'm at right now, it was worth it. I wouldn't change anything because it made me who I am. It gave me the work ethic that I currently have. And it gave me the mindset that I can do anything. With this project, the thing I'm most happy about is the fact that it's done. It took a lot to get to this point, but after it was completed, I stepped back and looked, and I was in disbelief, to be honest with you, because it just started with a simple idea, and for it to actually come to fruition through hard work, like I wouldn't change anything.